Jake Morrison cleaned the oil from his hands with an old rag. His small repair shop sat on the edge of Outpost Kelvin, a tiny space station built into an asteroid. The outpost was far from the busy trade routes and crowded planets. Most people forgot it even existed. That was exactly why Jake had chosen to live here. For 3 years, he had fixed broken equipment and repaired damaged armor for miners and traders who passed through. The work was simple and kept him busy. After everything he had seen during the war, Jake wanted nothing more than a quiet life, when nobody asked questions about his past. The door to his shop made a soft beeping sound. Jake looked up from his workbench and saw a woman standing in the doorway. She was tall, with dark hair tied back in a simple braid. Her combat armor was covered in scorch marks and dents. One of the shoulder pieces sparked and sizzled with small bursts of electricity. Despite the damaged armor, she stood straight and proud, like someone who had spent years in the military. "Are you the repair tech?" she asked. Her voice was calm and direct. Jake put down his tools and nodded. "That's me, Jake Morrison. What do you need?" "My armor needs fixing," the woman said. She pointed at the damaged shoulder. "Someone told me you're the best person on this station for armor repair." Jake almost smiled at that comment. He was the only armor repair tech within 3 star systems, but he did not correct her. Instead, he waved his hand toward the center of his workshop where a raised platform stood. "Step up here and let me run a scan," he said. The woman walked onto the platform. Jake pressed a button and blue lights began moving up and down around her body. A screen on the wall lit up with images showing all the damage to her armor. Jake's eyes went wide as he studied the results. This was not normal wear and tear from mining work or station maintenance. The armor had been hit by plasma weapons. Multiple hits, all of them recent. "You were in a fight," Jake said, keeping his voice neutral. "Yes," the woman replied. She did not offer any more information. Jake did not push for details. Everyone who came to the frontier had secrets. He had learned long ago not to ask too many questions. People might start asking questions about him in return. He focused on the damage instead, mentally listing everything that needed to be fixed. "I can repair this," he finally said, "but it will take time. The power system is completely burned out. You have small cracks in 3 of the main plates. I need to strengthen the inner layer and replace the entire shoulder joint. 2 days, maybe 3. The woman thought about this for a moment, then nodded. "How much will it cost?" Jake told her a fair price. He expected her to argue or try to negotiate. Instead, she simply transferred the credits to his account without saying a word. Then she began removing the armor. Underneath, she wore a black bodysuit. Jake noticed how she moved with perfect control and balance, like someone who had worn armor for most of her life. "I need a place to stay while you work on this," she said. "There's a small hotel 2 levels above us," Jake told her. "The rooms are clean and the food is decent. Tell the owner I sent you and he'll give you a good rate." The woman nodded her thanks. She turned to leave but stopped at the door. "My name is Kate," she said, glancing back at him. "Kate Sullivan. Nice to meet you, Kate," Jake replied. His attention was already shifting back to the armor when the door closed behind her. Jake ran his hand across the damaged armor plate. He could feel the heat marks where the plasma bolts had hit. This armor had seen serious combat, the kind that did not happen in random pirate attacks or arguments over salvage rights. Whoever Kate Sullivan was, she was more than just another person passing through the frontier. But that was not his problem. He was here to fix the armor and earn his payment. Nothing more than that. Jake picked up his welding torch and started working. The shoulder joint came off easily once he removed the securing bolts. Inside, the damage was even worse than the scan had shown. The power cables had melted together, and several of the control chips were completely fried. This was going to take longer than he had estimated. He worked steadily through the afternoon, removing damaged parts and making a list of what he needed to replace. The armor was high quality, much better than the standard military issue he remembered from his own service. Someone had paid a lot of money for this equipment, custom built, probably. The kind of armor that important people wore. Jake found himself wondering about Kate Sullivan, her calm manner, the way she moved, the expensive armor. None of it fit together in an obvious way. But again, he pushed the thoughts aside. Curiosity could get a person into trouble out here on the frontier. By evening, he had stripped the armor down to its basic frame. Tomorrow he would start the real repair work. He cleaned his tools and prepared to close up the shop for the night. The door beeped again. Kate stood there holding 2 cups of coffee. She walked in and handed one to Jake. "I thought you might want this," she said. Jake accepted the cup. The coffee was terrible, bitter and weak, but it was hot. "Thanks." he said. Kate looked at the disassembled armor spread across his workbench. How bad is it? Bad enough, Jake admitted, but nothing I cannot fix. I found some extra damage in the underlayer that I did not see in the first scan. It will add maybe half a day to the repair time. Kate did not seem worried about the delay. She pulled over a stool and sat down, watching him organize his tools for the next day. You were military, she said. It was not a question. Jake's hands stopped moving for just a second. Then he continued sorting his tools. What makes you think that? The way you work, you check everything in order. Structure first, then function, then appearance. That's how military techs are trained. Civilian repair people usually work differently. Jake shrugged. I did one tour, Navy engineering. Got out when my contract ended. Which ship? Kate asked. Destroyer called the Morning Star. Nothing special. Standard patrol duty. He looked up at her. What about you? You move like military. A small smile appeared on Kate's face. Navy, like you. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Jake sipped his coffee and thought about the next day's work. Kate seemed content to just sit and watch him. This armor, Jake said after a while. It's not standard issue. Custom made. Military grade, but with some civilian modifications. Who built it for you? Kate was quiet for several seconds. Someone who knew what they were doing. The vague answer told Jake she did not want to discuss it. He understood. Everyone had things they preferred not to talk about. But as he looked at the armor again, he could not shake a strange feeling. Something about all of this did not add up. The expensive custom armor, the plasma weapon damage, Kate's careful avoidance of direct answers. She was hiding something important. Jake noticed a spot on the inner lining where a rank badge would normally attach. It had been carefully removed, but he could still see the faint outline of where it had been. Kate had deliberately hidden her rank. He decided not to mention it. Whatever secrets she carried were her own business. He was just the repair tech. Fix the armor, take the payment, and move on. That was the deal. Kate finished her coffee and stood up. I should let you get some rest. Tomorrow will be a long day. Probably, Jake agreed. She walked to the door, then paused. Thanks for the good work, Jake. It's nice to meet someone who takes pride in what they do. After she left, Jake locked up the shop and climbed the stairs to his small apartment above the workspace. He lay in bed thinking about Kate Sullivan and her mysterious armor. Something told him this simple repair job was going to become complicated. But for now, he had work to do. Tomorrow he would start rebuilding the power system and reinforcing the damaged plates. One step at a time. That was how you got through difficult jobs. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sleep, pushing away the questions that kept circling in his mind. Jake was installing the final calibration module when the station's alarm system began wailing. The sound was harsh and loud, filling every corridor and room. He had lived on Outpost Kelvin for 3 years and had never heard that alarm before. It meant incoming ships, potentially hostile ships. Kate was on her feet instantly. Her relaxed posture vanished, replaced by rigid military alertness. How many ships? She demanded. I don't know, Jake said, moving to his computer terminal. He accessed the station's external sensors. What he saw made his stomach drop. 12 ships had just appeared at the edge of the star system. They were big, military cruisers, at minimum. One of them looked like a carrier. That's a battle group, Jake said quietly. His hands felt cold. What is a fleet battle group doing here? Kate had moved behind him to look at the display. Jake noticed she did not seem surprised. Worried, yes, but not surprised. I need my armor, Kate said urgently. Right now. It's not finished, Jake protested. I still need to run the final diagnostics and calibrate the power distribution system. There's no time, I need it now. Something in her voice made Jake move without arguing. He helped her into the partially completed armor, skipping the normal safety checks and powering up the systems manually. The armor came to life with a high-pitched whine. Displays flickered across the inside of the helmet. Kate's fingers moved rapidly across the control panel on her wrist. She entered a series of commands that Jake did not recognize. A moment later, his computer terminal lit up with warnings about unauthorized transmissions. Kate's armor was broadcasting a powerful signal. What are you doing? Jake asked. Before Kate could answer, his computer beeped with an incoming communication request. The priority code made Jake's blood run cold. It was a military channel, command level, the kind that civilians were not supposed to know existed. Kate reached past him and accepted the call. A holographic image appeared above the terminal. It showed a man in a Navy uniform with commander's rank insignia on his collar. His eyes widened when he saw Kate. Admiral Sullivan, he said, relief clear in his voice. Thank God we've been searching for you for 3 days. When your ship went silent, we feared the worst. Jake felt the world tilt sideways. Kate was an admiral, report, Commander Hayes. Kate said. Her voice had changed. It carried absolute authority now, the tone of someone used to commanding thousands of people. The Krenth have mobilized their fleet, ma'am. Intelligence suggests they're preparing for a major offensive. We need you back in command. The Armada is holding position, but without your orders, we're vulnerable. Kate's jaw tightened. How long do I have? Hours, ma'am. Maybe less. They're moving faster than our projections indicated. She nodded sharply. Transmit my command codes to the fleet. Full battle stations. I'll reach the flagship within the hour. She paused, then added, and Hayes, have my quarters prepared. I need to change before I address the fleet. Yes, ma'am. The commander saluted. The holographic image disappeared. The workshop fell silent. Jake stared at Kate, trying to match the woman who had drunk terrible coffee in his shop with the naval officer who apparently commanded an entire battle fleet. You're an admiral, he said. His voice came out flat with shock. Yes, Kate confirmed. She still would not quite meet his eyes. You command that battle group out there. More than that, Kate said quietly. I command the Third Fleet. 67 ships, 20,000 personnel. She finally looked at him. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I couldn't risk anyone knowing I was here. Jake's mind was racing. The damage to your armor, that wasn't just a random fight. No, I was ambushed during a secret meeting with a potential ally. My security team got me out, but my ship was badly damaged. We made it here before the engines failed completely. I sent my crew ahead for repairs while I waited, hoping to stay hidden until we could leave quietly. And now the enemy has found you. Kate shook her head. They haven't, not yet. But the Krenth are making their move, and I need to be with my fleet. She looked at the armor, then back at Jake. Thank you. For the repairs, and for not asking too many questions. She turned toward the door, but Jake called after her. Wait. Kate stopped. The armor, Jake said. It's not combat ready. The power distribution isn't fully calibrated. If you take heavy fire, the whole system could fail. I'll be careful, Kate said. Let me come with you, Jake heard himself say. The words surprised him as much as they seemed to surprise Kate. I can finish the repairs on your ship. Make sure the armor holds together until you can get proper maintenance done. Kate studied him for a long moment. Why would you do that? Jake thought about the question. He thought about the quiet life he had built here, the safety of being forgotten, the careful distance he had maintained from anything that reminded him of the war. And then he thought about sending Kate into battle with faulty equipment, knowing it might fail when she needed it most. Because it's the right thing to do, he said finally. And because I'm the one who repaired it, if it fails, that's on me. A slow smile spread across Kate's face. All right, Jake Morrison, welcome back to the Navy. Within minutes they were on a military shuttle heading toward the battle group. 6 fighter craft flew in tight formation around them, providing escort. The communications channels were full of encrypted military chatter. Jake listened to the organized chaos of a fleet preparing for battle. The flagship was massive. The Valiant Dawn was a dreadnought-class warship, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. Jake had served on destroyers during his tour, but nothing like this. The Valiant Dawn was a city floating in space, home to thousands of crew members and carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. As their shuttle entered the main hangar bay, Jake could see the controlled chaos of military preparation. Fighters were being armed and fueled. Marines assembled in formation. Officers hurried between stations, carrying tablets and data devices. Everyone moved with purpose and precision. Kate walked down the shuttle ramp with Jake following close behind. Instantly, every person in sight snapped to attention. The salutes were sharp and simultaneous. This was a well-trained crew, as you were, Kate called out. Her voice carried across the hangar. The crew immediately returned to their tasks, but Jake noticed the relief on many faces. Their admiral was back. That clearly meant everything to them. A woman in captain's insignia approached. Her expression was professional, but Jake could see the concern underneath. Admiral, welcome back. The fleet is at full readiness. Commander Hayes is coordinating the defensive screen. We have scouts monitoring the Krenth fleet movements. Excellent work, Captain Lewis, Kate replied. What's our tactical situation? Not good, ma'am, the captain said grimly. The Krenth have assembled a force twice the size of our intelligence projections. They're moving toward the Beringer system. If they take it, they'll have a direct route to our supply lines. Kate nodded, her expression hardening. Assemble the command staff in the briefing room. We launch in 90 minutes, she gestured to Jake. This is Jake Morrison, civilian contractor. He'll be completing repairs on my armor. Get him whatever tools and materials he needs. Captain Lewis barely reacted to the unexpected addition. Yes, ma'am. I'll have him escorted to the armory. As they walked through the corridors of the Valiant Dawn, Jake was struck by the efficiency of the operation. Every crew member they passed showed sharp focus and discipline. This was not just a well-run ship. This was a precision instrument. They reached Kate's quarters. She paused at the door. I need to brief my command staff, she said to Jake. Lieutenant Costa will take you to the armory. You'll have full access to our equipment and supplies, Admiral, Jake said. The title felt strange on his tongue. How long before the fighting starts? Kate's expression was grave. If we're lucky, a few hours. If we're not, the Krenth could engage us within the hour. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Thank you for coming, Jake. Knowing someone I trust is working on my armor makes a real difference. Then she was gone, disappearing into her quarters to change into her uniform. A young lieutenant appeared and led Jake through a maze of corridors to the ship's armory. It was a vast space filled with weapons, armor, and equipment of every type. The Admiral said to give you anything you need, Lieutenant Costa said. I'll be outside if you need assistance. Jake immediately got to work. He laid out Kate's armor and accessed the ship's fabrication systems. With the fleet's resources available, he could do more than just finish the basic repairs. He could improve everything. He spent the next hour working faster than he ever had. He reinforced stress points. He upgraded the power distribution network with military-grade components. He added backup systems that would keep the armor functional even if the primary systems failed. This was the kind of work he had done during the war, racing against time to keep equipment operational while battles raged around them as he worked. Announcements came over the ship's intercom system. The fleet was moving into defensive positions. Scout ships had made contact with Krenth advance forces. Combat was coming soon. Jake pushed down his fear and focused on his hands, on the tools, on the armor. This armor might be the difference between life and death for Kate Sullivan. He thought about the woman who had... Jake woke up early and went straight to work. By mid-morning, he had removed all the damaged components from Kate's armor. The more he examined it, the more impressed he became. This was not just good armor. This was excellent armor, the kind that cost more than most people earned in an entire year. He was working on the power coupling when the door beeped. Kate walked in carrying 2 more cups of coffee from the station's dining hall. She handed one to Jake. Making progress? She asked, looking at the armor pieces scattered across his workspace. Getting there, Jake said, taking a drink. The coffee was just as bad as yesterday, but he appreciated the gesture. I found more damage in the Nothing I cannot fix, but it adds time. Kate nodded and pulled up a stool next to his workbench. She sat down and watched him work with focused attention. Most customers left their equipment and came back when it was ready. Kate seemed genuinely interested in the repair process. You know your way around armor, Jake observed as he worked. I've worn it long enough, Kate replied. She handed him a tool before he even asked for it. What's next? I need to rewire the entire power distribution network, then replace these 3 control modules. After that, I can start reinforcing the damaged plates. They worked together in silence for a while. Kate anticipated what tools he needed and held components in place while he secured them. She had good mechanical instincts. The work went faster with her help. Where did you serve? Kate asked eventually. Destroyer division. Engineering section. We did patrol duty mostly. Some convoy escort work. Nothing exciting. Jake did not look up from the circuit board he was repairing. What about you? Cruisers, mostly. I moved around a lot. Jake noticed she did not give specifics. No ship names. No details about her duties. Just vague general statements. He found that interesting but did not press. How long have you been out here on the frontier? Kate asked. 3 years. Came here right after my discharge. Wanted somewhere quiet. Jake connected to wires and checked the power flow. What brings you to Outpost Kelvin? Just passing through, Kate said. My ship needed some minor repairs. I decided to get my armor fixed while I waited. What kind of ship? Small transport. Nothing special. Another vague answer. Jake was starting to see a pattern. Kate deflected every question that might reveal real information about herself. She was good at it too. Most people would not even notice how she avoided giving direct answers. Jake decided to test something. He pointed at a section of the armor's inner lining. See this reinforcement pattern? This is Navy spec. But these custom fittings are definitely civilian work. Whoever modified this armor knew exactly what they were doing. Must have cost a fortune. Kate examined the section he indicated. I saved up for it. This kind of work costs more than most people make in 5 years, Jake said casually. You must have been saving for a long time. I was, Kate said. Her tone suggested the conversation was over. Jake let it drop. He had confirmed his suspicion. Kate was hiding something significant. The armor alone suggested she was someone important. Add in the plasma weapon damage and her careful evasion of questions, and the picture became clearer. Kate Sullivan was not just a random traveler. She was someone who needed to stay hidden. They worked through the afternoon. Jake appreciated Kate's help and her company. Despite her secrecy, she was easy to talk to. They discussed technical specifications and design principles. They argued good-naturedly about the best way to route power cables. They shared a lunch of bland station food and complained about how every frontier outpost served the same terrible meals. By evening, Jake had made significant progress. The power coupling was completely rebuilt and the new control modules were installed. Tomorrow he could start work on the structural repairs. You're good at this, Kate said as she watched him test the power flow. Better than good. You could work anywhere. Why stay out here on a forgotten station? Jake did not answer right away. He focused on the diagnostic readout, watching the numbers scroll past. Finally, he spoke without looking at her. After the war, I needed somewhere quiet, somewhere I could work with my hands and not think too much about the past. Bad experiences? Kate asked gently. Some, mostly I just got tired of it all. The Navy, the structure, the constant orders. I wanted to make my own choices. Kate was quiet for a moment. I understand that feeling. Jake glanced at her. For the first time, he saw something in her expression that looked like regret or maybe sadness. It passed quickly, replaced by her usual calm control. Do you ever miss it? She asked. The Navy, I mean. Sometimes, Jake admitted. I miss working with a good crew. I miss feeling like I was part of something bigger. But I don't miss the politics or the bureaucracy. Those parts never get better, Kate said with a slight smile. Trust me. They cleaned up the workspace together as the station's lights dimmed to simulate evening. Kate helped him organize the tools and put away the spare parts. Same time tomorrow, she asked at the door. If you want, you don't have to help. This is what you're paying me for. I know, but I like being useful. Besides, you work faster when I'm here to hand you tools. After Kate left, Jake sat alone in his shop staring at the partially repaired armor. He thought about their conversations over the past 2 days. Kate had learned quite a bit about him, while revealing almost nothing about herself. She was skilled at that. It took training and practice to deflect questions so smoothly. Jake ran his fingers over the armor's surface. He found another detail he had missed before. Tiny marks where advanced sensor equipment had been attached and then removed. The mounting points were standard military issue, but the configuration was unusual. This armor had been fitted with command-level communications gear. That changed things. Command-level equipment meant Kate held a significant rank, possibly very significant. Combined with the expensive custom modifications and the plasma weapon damage, a picture was forming. Kate Sullivan was a high-ranking officer who had been in serious combat recently, and she was here on this forgotten station, hiding her identity. Jake wondered what kind of trouble she was in, or what kind of mission required this level of secrecy. He shook his head and stood up. Not his problem. He would finish the repairs, Kate would pay him, and she would leave. Whatever secrets she carried would leave with her. That was how things worked on the frontier. People came and went, and you did not ask too many questions. But even as he told himself that, Jake could not shake his curiosity. After 3 years of simple repair jobs and quiet days, Kate Sullivan was the most interesting thing to happen to him. Part of him wanted to know her story. Another part warned him that curiosity could be dangerous. The next morning started the same way. Kate arrived with coffee and they worked together on the armor. Jake focused on reinforcing the damaged plates while Kate helped with the detail work. They fell into an easy rhythm, moving around each other in the small workspace like they had been working together for years instead of just days. Tell me about your ship, Jake said as he welded a reinforcement strip. The one that needs repairs. Small crew transport, Kate said. Basic model. Gets us where we need to go. Us. Jake caught the slip. Kate paused for just a second. Me and my crew, a small group, we do contract work. What kind of contract work? Security, transport, whatever pays well. Jake nodded as if he believed her. But security contractors did not wear armor with command-level sensor mounts. They did not have custom military-grade equipment worth a small fortune. Kate's story did not hold together under examination. But Jake played along. If she wanted to maintain the fiction, he would not challenge it. Not yet, anyway. They worked until late afternoon. The armor was nearly complete. Just a few more hours of work tomorrow and it would be ready. Jake felt oddly disappointed. Once the job was finished, Kate would leave. the shop would be quiet again, back to the normal routine of simple repairs and long, empty days. Almost done, Kate observed, examining the repaired shoulder joint. You do excellent work, Jake. Thanks. Should be ready by tomorrow evening. Kate nodded, but she looked distracted. Her eyes kept drifting to a small device on her wrist, some kind of communications unit. She checked it several times, her expression tightening each time. Everything okay? Jake asked. Fine, Kate said, but her tone suggested otherwise. Just waiting for a message. Jake wanted to ask more, but the look on her face stopped him. Whatever Kate was waiting for, it was making her tense. He had seen that expression before on military personnel. Something important was happening, something that required careful timing. Kate left earlier than usual that evening. Jake finished the last of the structural repairs and ran a complete diagnostic. Everything checked out perfectly. The armor was actually in better condition now than when Kate had first brought it in. Tomorrow he would do a final calibration and it would be ready. He locked up the shop and climbed to his apartment. Through the small window, he could see the distant stars. Somewhere out there, something was happening, something that involved Kate Sullivan and her mysterious armor. Jake had no idea what it was, but he had a feeling he was going to find out soon. The briefing room fell silent as Kate entered. She now wore her full dress uniform with 5 stars gleaming on her collar. Fleet Admiral. Jake watched from the corner where he had been allowed to stand and observe. He felt completely out of place among the assembled officers. Ladies and gentlemen, Kate began. Her voice was steady and confident. The Krent have made their intentions clear. They mean to cut our supply lines and force us into a corner. We cannot allow that to happen. She activated the holographic display at the center of the table. The tactical situation appeared in 3 dimensions. Red markers represented the Krent fleet, a massive force bearing down on the Beringer system. Blue markers showed the 3rd fleet, outnumbered but positioned to intercept. We will engage them here, Kate said, pointing to a spot between 2 asteroid fields. The terrain will limit how many ships they can bring to bear at once. This negates their numerical advantage. Our destroyers will harass their flanks while our main battle line holds the center. The Valiant Dawn will lead the assault. Commander Hayes spoke up. Admiral, our intelligence reports indicate the Krent are using a new type of dreadnought, heavily shielded and armed with experimental weapons. If they break through our line, they won't, Kate said with complete certainty, because we're not going to give them the chance. Our goal is to cripple their flagship and force a retreat. Without command and control, their fleet will lose coordination. She laid out the battle plan with precision. Each ship received specific orders. Fallback positions were established. Contingency plans were outlined. Jake was impressed by the depth of her strategic thinking. This was not just throwing ships at the enemy and hoping for the best. This was careful planning where every detail mattered. Questions? Kate asked when she finished. Captain Lewis raised her hand. Rules of engagement, ma'am. Standard protocols. We disable when possible, but the safety of this fleet comes first. If they want to fight, we'll give them one they won't forget. Kate's gaze swept across the assembled officers. The Krent think they can intimidate us with superior numbers. They're about to learn why the 3rd Fleet has never lost a major engagement. We are the finest fighting force in human space, and today we prove it. Dismissed. The officers filed out, each heading to their battle stations. Kate remained behind, studying the tactical display with intense concentration. Jake could almost see her running through scenarios in her mind. Your armor is ready, Jake said quietly. She looked up, seeming surprised to find him still there. Thank you. I should get suited up. They walked together to the armory. Jake helped her into the armor, checking each connection and seal. The repairs had held perfectly. The upgrades he had made using the fleet's equipment meant the armor was now better than it had been originally. Kate said as he secured the final plate. If things go wrong out there, if the battle turns against us, you can take a shuttle back to the station. You're not military anymore. You don't have to be part of this. Jake met her eyes through the transparent faceplate of the helmet. With respect, Admiral, I came this far. I'm not leaving now. She smiled at that. It was a genuine expression of warmth that reminded him of the woman from his workshop. Then I suppose you're officially back on duty, Petty Officer Morrison. I think I prefer civilian contractor, Jake replied with a slight grin. The pay is better. The moment ended as the ship's intercom crackled to life. Admiral Sullivan to the bridge. Enemy fleet has entered weapons range. Kate's expression hardened instantly. The friendly conversation was over. Now she was all business. Battle stations. Jake followed her to the bridge. He took a position near the rear where he could observe without interfering. The bridge was impressive, dozens of stations arranged in a semicircle around the command chair. Each one monitored different aspects of the ship and fleet. Kate sat in the command chair. Immediately the crew's readiness level increased. "Status report," she ordered. "Krenth, fleet confirmed at 137 vessels," the tactical officer reported. "They're moving into attack formation. Their new dreadnought is at the front. All ships acknowledge ready status." The communications officer added. Kate studied the tactical display for a moment. Then she began issuing orders with calm precision. "Signal the fleet. Execute pattern Delta. Destroyers break left and right. Cruisers form up on the Valiant Dawn. Fighters deploy in defensive screen." The bridge became a hive of controlled activity. Orders were relayed and executed. On the main view screen, Jake could see the Third Fleet moving like a choreographed dance. Each ship slid into position with practiced ease. The Krenth fleet approached. It was a massive wall of metal and weaponry that looked unstoppable. But Kate did not flinch. She watched, calculated, and when the moment was right, she gave the order. "All ships, open fire." The space between the fleets erupted in light and destruction. Plasma bolts and missiles crossed the void. Shields fled and died. Ships on both sides took damage. The Valiant Dawn shuddered as enemy fire hit its shields, but the crew worked smoothly. They diverted power and returned fire with devastating accuracy. Jake watched in awe as Kate commanded her fleet. Her orders were precise. Her timing was perfect. She had visualized this battle before it began, and now she was conducting it like a symphony. When the Krenth tried to flank, she had destroyers waiting. When they pushed the center, she pulled back and let them overextend before counterattacking. Hours passed. The battle raged on. Both sides traded blows that would have destroyed lesser forces. But gradually, the Third Fleet's superior tactics began to show results. The Krenth dreadnought, the key to their assault, found itself isolated and under concentrated fire. "All batteries target the dreadnought," Kate ordered. "Hit them with everything." The Valiant Dawn's main guns fired in unison with a dozen other ships. The combined firepower was incredible. The Krenth dreadnought's shields collapsed. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. It began to drift, trailing atmosphere and debris. "Their flagship is breaking off," the tactical officer reported. "The rest of their fleet is falling back." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Kate silenced it with a raised hand. "Damage report. All ships." Reports came in. The Third Fleet had taken casualties, but they had won decisively. The Krenth retreat was turning into a full withdrawal as damaged ships fled. Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Stand down from battle stations. Begin rescue operations for survivors, ours and theirs. Captain Lewis, you have command. I'll be in my quarters writing the after-action report." As the crew settled into post-battle procedures, Kate left the bridge with Jake following. Once they were alone in the corridor, she removed her helmet. Her hair was matted with sweat, and her face showed exhaustion from hours of intense focus. "We did it," she said quietly. "You did it," Jake corrected. "I just fixed your armor." Kate looked at him. Her expression was softer than he had ever seen it. "You did more than that. You came back, even though you had left all this behind. That took courage." Jake shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "I just didn't want my repair work to get you killed." They stood in the corridor for a moment. The sounds of the ship continued around them. Crew members hurried past on various tasks. Nobody paid attention to the admiral and the civilian contractor standing in the hallway. Finally, Kate spoke again. "What will you do now?" "Return to Outpost Kelvin." Jake thought about his quiet workshop, the solitude he had sought for 3 years, and he thought about the last few days, working alongside someone he respected, being part of something larger than himself again, making a real difference. "Actually," he said slowly, "I was thinking the Third Fleet could probably use a good armor technician. If you're hiring." Kate's smile was brilliant. "I think we can arrange that. Petty Officer Morrison, welcome to the fleet." They walked down the corridor together. Jake realized that sometimes the quiet life you thought you wanted was not as fulfilling as the one you were meant to live. He had come to the frontier to escape, but in repairing the armor of an admiral he had not known was an admiral, he had found his way back to purpose, and that, he thought, was worth more than all the solitude in the galaxy. Over the following days, Jake settled into life aboard the Valiant Dawn. He was assigned quarters near the armory, and given full access to the ship's repair facilities. The work was challenging and rewarding. He repaired battle damage, upgraded equipment, and trained junior technicians. Kate stopped by the armory regularly, sometimes to check on her armor, sometimes just to talk. They fell back into the easy companionship they had developed in his workshop, though now with the understanding of who they really were. Do you regret coming back? Kate asked one evening as Jake worked on a damaged flight suit. Jake thought about it. No, I needed the quiet for a while, but I think I was ready to move on. I just needed the right reason, and fixing my armor was the right reason. No, Jake said with a smile. Meeting someone worth following was the right reason. Kate laughed at that. Flattery will get you everywhere, petty officer. Actually, I prefer civilian contractor, Jake reminded her. Better pay. Remember, they both knew he had officially enlisted again, but the joke had become a comfortable routine between them. As Jake worked, he thought about how strange life could be. 3 weeks had passed since the first battle. The Third Fleet had pushed the Krynth forces back, but intelligence reports suggested the enemy was regrouping for another assault. This time, the target was clear. The Beringer system, a critical junction that controlled access to 3 major trade routes and dozens of supply lines. Jake had settled into his role as the fleet's lead armor technician. He worked long hours in the armory, repairing equipment and preparing for the next engagement. The work was demanding but satisfying. He had a purpose again. Kate visited the armory most evenings. Sometimes she needed equipment checked or adjusted. Other times she just wanted to talk. Jake had learned to read her moods. When she was relaxed, they discussed technical topics or shared stories from their past service. When she was tense, he knew to listen more than talk. Tonight, she was tense. The Krynth are coming, Kate said without preamble. She stood in the armory doorway, still wearing her uniform from a long day of strategic planning. Intelligence confirms they've assembled their largest fleet ever. Over 200 ships. They mean to take Beringer, and they're willing to pay any price. Jake set down the welding torch he had been using. When 2 days, maybe 3. We're moving the fleet into position tomorrow. What are our chances? Jake asked. Kate walked over to his workbench and sat on a stool. Honestly, not great. We're outnumbered 2 to 1, possibly more. But we have better trained crews and superior tactics. If we can draw them into the asteroid fields near Beringer, we can even the odds. And if you can't, then we fall back and try to hold them at the next defensive line. But losing Beringer would be a major blow. It could shift the balance of the entire war. Jake studied her face. He saw determination there, but also worry. The weight of command was visible in the tightness around her eyes and the set of her jaw. Your armor is ready, he said. I've triple-checked every system. Added extra reinforcement to the areas that took damage last time. If anything can keep you safe out there, this will. Kate smiled. I know. I trust your work, Jake. That's why I keep coming back here, for the armor maintenance. Jake asked with a slight grin. For the company, Kate replied. You're one of the few people on this ship who treats me like a person instead of just the admiral. Jake understood that. Command was lonely. Everyone saluted and said yes ma'am, but real friendship was harder to find when you wore stars on your collar. Well, you did spend 3 days in my workshop pretending to be a random traveler, Jake said. Hard to see you as just the admiral after that. They talked for another hour, avoiding the topic of the coming battle. Kate told stories about her early days in the Navy. Jake shared memories of the friends he had served with on the Morning Star. For a little while they were just 2 people talking. Not an admiral and her technician. Eventually, Kate stood to leave. Get some rest, Jake. Tomorrow's going to be busy. You too, Admiral. Kate, she corrected. When it's just us, you can call me Kate. After she left, Jake finished his work and headed to his quarters. Sleep did not come easily. He kept thinking about the battle ahead. 200 enemy ships. The Third Fleet would be fighting for their lives. The next day was chaos. The entire fleet moved to the Beringer system and took up defensive positions. Jake worked non-stop, performing last-minute checks on equipment and making sure every piece of armor and every weapon system was in perfect working order. Kate was everywhere, moving between the bridge and various sections of the ship, checking readiness and encouraging the crew. Jake saw her stop to talk with nervous young recruits, saw her pat veterans on the shoulder, saw her project absolute confidence even though he knew she must be feeling the same fear everyone else felt. That evening, Jake was summoned to the bridge. Kate wanted him there during the battle. As a civilian contractor, he was not required to be present, but she had specifically requested his presence. Jake suspected she wanted someone nearby who treated her like Kate instead of Admiral Sullivan. The bridge was quiet when he arrived. Officers sat at their stations, monitoring displays and waiting. The main view screen showed the Beringer system, peaceful and calm, but that peace would not last. Enemy fleet detected, the sensor officer announced. They're dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Count as 212 ships, dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers. They have us outnumbered significantly. Kate sat in her command chair perfectly still. She studied the tactical display, her eyes moving over the positioning of both fleets. Jake could almost see her mind working, calculating angles and timing. Signal all ships, Kate said calmly. Execute defensive formation. Destroyers take positions in the asteroid field. Cruisers form the main line. Fighters launch and establish patrol zones. The third fleet moved into position. On the view screen, Jake could see the ships spreading out, using the asteroids for cover and creating overlapping fields of fire. It was a defensive formation designed to make the Krenth pay dearly for every advance. The enemy fleet approached in a massive block formation. They were not trying to be clever. They were relying on overwhelming numbers to smash through any defense. They're confident, Commander Hayes observed from his station. Overconfident, Kate corrected. They think numbers alone will win this. They're wrong. The Krenth fleet entered weapons range. For a moment, nothing happened. Both sides held their fire, waiting to see who would break first. Kate waited until the enemy had committed fully to their approach. Then she spoke one word: fire. The third fleet opened up with everything they had. The space around Beringer erupted into a storm of weapons fire. Plasma bolts, missiles, and energy beams crossed the void. The Krenth returned fire, and the battle was joined. The Valiant Dawn shook as enemy weapons impacted the shields. The crew worked frantically, routing power and coordinating return fire. Jake held onto a railing, watching the organized chaos around him. Enemy dreadnought moving to flank. The tactical officer called out, "Destroyer Group 7, intercept and harass." Kate ordered, "Don't engage directly, just slow them down." Jake watched as 7 small destroyers broke formation and raced toward the massive enemy dreadnought. They were like insects attacking a giant, but their concentrated fire forced the dreadnought to divert resources to defend itself. The flanking maneuver stalled. The battle raged for hours. The Krenth pushed forward, trying to break the defensive line. Kate pulled ships back and forth like a master chess player, always one move ahead of the enemy. She used the asteroids to her advantage, luring enemy ships into kill zones where multiple Third Fleet vessels could concentrate fire, but the numbers were beginning to tell. The Third Fleet was taking heavy casualties. Ships were disabled or destroyed. The defensive line was weakening. "We can't hold this position much longer," Captain Lewis said quietly to Kate. "We don't need to hold it," Kate replied. "We just need to hold long enough." "For what, ma'am?" Kate smiled. "For them to make a mistake." And they did. The Krenth commander, frustrated by the stubborn defense, committed his reserve forces all at once. Every ship moved forward in a massive push designed to overwhelm the Third Fleet. Through sheer weight of numbers, it was exactly what Kate had been waiting for. All ships, emergency thrust, execute retreat pattern, Omega 3. The Third Fleet suddenly broke formation and retreated. To the Krenth, it must have looked like a rout. Their entire fleet surged forward, chasing what they thought was a defeated enemy. But Kate had led them into a trap. The Third Fleet had retreated through a narrow corridor in the asteroid field. The Krenth followed, their ships bunching together in the confined space. "Now," Kate said quietly, "all ships, reverse thrust and fire at will." The Third Fleet stopped retreating and turned to face the enemy. At the same time, hidden weapon platforms that had been anchored to asteroids activated. The Krenth fleet found itself trapped in a kill box with weapons firing from all sides. The slaughter was terrible. Confined and unable to maneuver, the Krenth ships were sitting targets. Their superior numbers meant nothing when they could not bring their weapons to bear effectively. The Krenth commander tried to retreat, but the narrow corridor that had let them in now prevented easy escape. Ships collided as they tried to turn. Damaged vessels blocked the path of functional ones. The organized fleet became a chaotic mob. "Target their command ship," Kate ordered. All heavy weapons, the Valiant Dawn and 5 other capital ships, concentrated fire on the Krenth flagship. The enemy's shields collapsed under the assault. Internal explosions tore through the ship. It broke apart, scattering debris across the battlefield. "Enemy fleet is retreating," the sensor officer reported. "They're abandoning their damaged ships and fleeing the system." This time Kate allowed the cheer that went up from the bridge crew. They had won. Against superior numbers, they had won. "Cease fire," Kate commanded. "Begin rescue operations. Save everyone you can, ours and theirs." She stood from her command chair and turned to face the crew. "Excellent work, everyone. You've proven once again why the Third Fleet is the best in human space. Take pride in what you've accomplished today." The crew returned to their tasks with renewed energy. Jake saw smiles on faces that had been grim with fear hours earlier. Kate caught his eye and nodded toward the exit. They left the bridge together and walked to a quiet observation deck.